because when I draw hair, I usually think of, or I create these smaller sections so that I can draw them one by one. I think that's easier to draw hair that way, if you focus on each section one at a time. So first I start with the biggest shape, and then so the placement of the head. So I look at the negative space like I showed you, and you can check angles with your pencil like this. So you can go like this and then check if you have that angle on your paper the same. It's a bit more to the right, and then it goes up, straight up, but then not straight, but a bit angled. And then you see this triangle, upside down triangle shape from this point, and you see that it's curved a bit. So we have this shape here. You can look at the distance from the paper, you can look at the distance from this point. So we have this point, and it looks like, and then here this line continues. So we already have that line, you can continue it. Here we can look at this shape, or actually this shape, and you see here a line. Look at your drawing from a distance, put your sketch and reference photo side by side, and just compare and see if you have the shapes correct. I am going to start with the 2B, and now that you have your shapes, you can easily, so here you see that the hair is really straight if you look at the lines you see. So I focus on just this section. Make sure you use light pressure. Every layer you're going to create, you will use light pressure, because you want to be able to erase. Even with your last layers, after maybe 4 or 5 layers, you still want to be able to erase, because that's how I create those loose flyaway hairs and those lighter hairs on top. Okay, so even though the lighter hair in between, you see that it's not exactly white. So with this light pencil grade, I'm going to add those texture lines for the hair. Maybe you automatically want to use more pressure because it's darker here, but I just go over the lines a few more times with the same amount of pressure. Okay, now with the 4B, with the same light pressure, go over, and you see that it can get a bit darker, but not yet the value you need, but you're going to build up the layers. Next with the 6B, and you can always go back with the 2B if, for example, here in between it's too light. So I like to keep on building up the layers here to get the correct dark value I see. And then after the 6B I use the 8B, and if that's not dark enough, I use the black pencil. I'm just going to use the blending stump and blend this roughly all together. So now with the 8B, and you see that I take my time. This is just one part of the whole hair drawing, but overall I'm keeping this. You see that I'm drawing the most of the texture lines here and up here, and then keeping this area a bit lighter. Okay, so this is the 8B. This is the darkest I can get with the graphite. Of course I can press really hard and get it really dark, but again, if I do that, it won't be easy for me to erase. First, before I use the black, I want to use the pencil eraser. When I erase, and then after a few strokes, I like to clean it off, because if you don't do this, you will be smudging instead of erasing. Clean again. That's how I use the eraser to erase. You see those very thin lines at the end, we can add those, because you see they're also going over other sections. So now I'm just focusing on this section and the lighter areas. And you could have kept this lighter and draw around it, but with texture, I think that's more difficult. So I go a bit back and forth with adding graphite, erasing to create and build up that texture. Okay, now you can see that the value isn't correct. Here, by adding this dark value, You see that I'm pushing that area to the back, and that's how you create that 3D effect. And this is just one section, so try not to focus too much on this section. Wait and see until you have more of the drawing finished. So if this is your first time drawing hair, just try to practice this technique. Don't judge your drawing already after this. Practice it, get familiar with the technique, adding layers, light pressure, getting the correct values, highlights, midtones, shadows. And I'm using light pressure with this black pencil. Here in between that light area you see some darker, so with these light lines. And even though I just erased over there, you still see that in between, you see it's lighter. And then I can erase again, add graphite back. That's how I go back and forth. Now I see that this is darker, so I'm going over it again. Instead of using harder pressure, just going over it. You see that it gets darker. Sometimes I do use a bit more pressure, but then like instead of light pressure, light to medium. Never press hard. Okay, so you see that this section already has some more depth. Okay, so now I like to blend, make it all look a bit softer and natural. And if it becomes too dirty, remember you can just clean it off. Okay, now let's use the eraser. And then I think we can move on to the other section. And again, this is not like the end result. You can always go back and then see if you need to darken maybe. So after this, I like to move on to complete more of the drawing. It's easier to compare the values like that. So this is how you draw hair, step by step. And then another time with the black pencil. And make sure your tip is sharp enough. With the 2B, I'm going to start the next section here. Okay, so I'm going to call this drawing finished. And there are so many different types of hairs. This is just one type of hair. This is fine, straight hair. And this is how I would draw this. So you can practice with this, and we're going to go over some other types of hair because there are so many. And it's all basically the same technique, but then just other shapes you will see. But I'll show you that in one of the next lessons.